Hello everybody, my name is TRG. I'm a guy that plays games while being lame, and one of the games that I did play was Mouse P.I for Hire. It was a very great game. I loved it. It bring back old stylistic humors of things like Naked Gun. Now I was watching some stuff and randomly I came across a video that pretty much was a weird anti-woke hit piece on it. Link in the description to the original video. Do not go harass. This is protected under copyright. Yada yada, all that legal jargon. Link in the description to the original video. Do not go harass. This is protected under copyright. Yada yada, all that legal jargon. We're going to skip ahead to where he starts to give criticism because he kind of flubs around for the beginning. So let's go into where he starts talking about the mid.
Now for some stuff that's not so good, like the difficulty balance. Most of the game did not pose a challenge, even on the hardest difficulty. Only after you get through the halfway point or so, the enemy encounters, they become actually challenging.
And that's a normal thing for games. Like, I don't really know what he's saying because I have played games that are like considered hard or inaccessible. Things like Elden Ring Night Ring, Silk Song, Doom Eternal, Doom the Dark Ages, like games, and I play them on the higher difficulties. They don't necessarily pose that much of a challenge until the halfway point. This is just a natural progression where you'll have something to where it ramps up, it ramps up, it ramps up. Then, as soon as it starts getting that exponential factor kicking in, then that happens. I don't really know what this criticism is besides not really understanding game design. I understand that, like, you might want to have something really challenging and the hardest difficulty should be there. But at the same time, this game never really advertised itself as like a super hard shooter.
The combat is that it's all just arenas. 95% of the combat in this game takes place in arenas. You get locked in a room with these enemy spawner doors, and they just keep coming from them in waves.
Which is another thing that happens in shooters and like things like Doom once again. Like in Doom it's slightly different because they'll come in waves and you get put into an arena that you can't escape. But this is a very normal thing in like shooters that one is very much inspired by like Doom and BioShock, which has this exact thing where you have these waves. This design is so old in games that, like I said, it goes all the way to the first BioShock, so I don't really know what he's complaining about besides just complaining. I don't really know what he's trying to critique here because it's extremely similar to IGN saying there's too much shooting in my shooting game.
So it's mostly arena, then walking. Arena and walking. Downtime, combat. Downtime, combat. I would have much preferred if there were way more enemies pre-placed in the map, just waiting for you to arrive like every other shooter does it. Or the good old monster closets, you know. What happened to those? Aside from a few enemies that were hidden in a bunch of barrels, there were no surprise attacks, ever.
He tries to say that every other shooter does this, but what he doesn't bring up is that they actually do it quite sparingly and generally do it to such a degree to where it's like it is acceptable to just kind of get rid of it. Even things like Doom and Doom Eternal have it to where you'll go into a place and you'll walk and there'll be literally no enemies for like a good portion of the game. So it seems to be like extremely selective memory where he's saying every other shooter does this, but pretty much the only ones that actually do it to a degree where it actually matters is the slower pace kind of shooters like Quake. Though Quake is relatively fast, but the older shooters were that was kind of a thing of surprise. This argument doesn't really make any sense because, like I said, it's extremely selective memory or going so far back that you're having a gap between this game and a game that you're comparing by 30 years of design. On top of that, it doesn't necessarily make sense for this game due to the fact that generally the downtime is there so that you can get back into the fight. This is similar to things like Ultra Kill where you're going to have just very little downtime, you're just going to go back into the fight.
Of the boomer shooters do it this way. Well, it's more well known that Serious Sam is the one that's best at the arena stuff.
At this point, I think makes it very obvious that he's blinded by nostalgia when comparing this. He wants a like truth is a book boomer shooter rather than an inspired boomer shooter, but that's not how you criticize games. That just means that you're sloppy and that your criticisms pretty much mean nothing. And while it does take inspiration from boomer shooters, it is definitely mixing other designs with how modern boomer shooters do it. Like I said when I referenced Doom, whether that be 16, Eternal, the Dark Ages, Ultra Kill, these newer ones don't do it like that. And that's because that's okay in design. It's not a mid thing and it's not a bad thing. If you don't like it, that's fair. But him trying to pretend that, oh, you need to do it like the boomer shooters doesn't really make sense. And the next thing that he says doesn't really make sense either.
In this game, it breaks the pacing of the game. It's pretty annoying.
It really doesn't break the pacing at all. It actually helps the pacing along. Because then you just kind of can walk around and do whatever you need to do. And if you want to take a break and do whatever downtime that you need to do and explore secrets, you can. That's what I did. That's what most people did. And that's what happens once again, referencing back to Doom 16, Eternal, Dark Ages, Ultra Kill. That's a normal thing. There's no breaking of the pacing unless it's just based off of I don't like it, therefore it's bad. And that's what it seems to be. I would like him to get a better point, and I wish he can go deeper, but I know he can't because, like I said, this is built off of basically I don't like it, therefore it's bad. Even though that so many other games do this design.
And the way the power-ups are done in this game, it's pretty shitty. Aside
Let's see what he's gonna complain about.
from the pepper power-up, which imbues your bullets with fire, which is a free power-up that helps you if you want to use it in battle. The other two power-ups, they couldn't even be called that. One turns your fingers into guns, pretty much Cuphead style, and the other one is just a berserk power-up from Doom, where you get to punch stuff. But the problem with these two last power-ups is that they don't do any extra damage. In fact, they're even...
I wanted to test this claim, so let's do that. So let's test this. Generally, it takes so it takes 3 punches for that, 4 punches for that. So that claim is just objectively incorrect. If he's talking about DPS, that might be something, but if he is talking about DPS, then the criticism that he says about the finger gun doesn't necessarily make sense because if it's DPS, the finger gun has one of the highest DPS due to the fact that it's infinite. If he's not talking about that and he's talking about per shot, well, it's incorrect about the other power-up. I can't really take this argument seriously because the only way for him to be able to say this is that if he just didn't test it, so he's just making an argument based off of ignorance, or he's doing this in a bad faith way, which is kind of dumb.
Weaker than many of your regular guns. Secondly, you need to pick them up for progression. And so in several points of this game, I was stuck with either one of these two shitty power-ups, quote unquote, just because they have to shove down your throat all their silly references.
Don't mind that he showed him killing a sniper in one shot with the gun, which is very hard to do.
What about the rest of the gameplay? Well, in terms of puzzles, this game's pretty easy. It really lacks in puzzle variety. Most of them you just have to find the switch, activate it, follow the electricity on the cable, and it unlocks something.
Where are you gonna go with this? Because most shooters don't do puzzles. They do puzzle quest things.
Since you have a compass at the top of the screen telling you where to go, it's hard to have trouble finding these switches. Then you have a bunch of safes, including some secret ones. And I have to say that secrets are a staple of old school FPSs. And the secrets in this game, they are so easy to find. Most of them I found by accident. I wasn't even looking for them. They are not well hidden at all.
Oh no, there's a few that are actually hidden. It's just that they have a lot of easy secrets so that you could feel accomplished. But there are some that you need to do, like a parkour, like get into a random room that a sniper was in that you wouldn't think that you'll be able to get into and perform a crouch jump and then land directly on that balcony. I will say that yes, they put the secret thing on for things that are not necessarily secrets. And that is a fair criticism that he gives, but then also on top of that, there are things where it's like this is a secret because you could miss it. It's not like a super hidden secret, but then there's also ones that are like, why would you know that secret? They do have a healthy mix in that game.
safes you have to crack, they all require you to tail pick, which is basically lock picking with your character's tail. And most of them, they are also extremely brain dead. Some of them are impossible to fail. They're just there to waste your time, basically. There was only one of these where I actually had to stop for a second to think, but it's all the same pattern, so once I learned that one, I never had trouble with these again. And these puzzles, they don't get harder as the game progresses, as one would expect. You still get the brain dead, impossible to fail lockpicking mini games even very late into the game. And one of the things
that is a fair criticism, but I would say a lot of the brain dead ones are just there to help you along with your progression. There are certain ones where it's like, okay, stop, go look at it, then do it. It's not exactly the hardest thing, but most FPS shooters don't necessarily do the hardest puzzles imaginable. So I wouldn't necessarily hold it on an FPS shooter when you have just a basic puzzle. A great example that I would give is the hacking mini games from BioShock 2, in which eventually you just have the auto hack, and eventually you become so rich that you could just do it all the time. So I don't necessarily think that that's like the greatest criticism ever. I think that it's kind of like, if you wanted it, I think you could say it could be better, but it's also not something that is really too intrinsic to it.
I noticed with these types of games that usually you can destroy a lot of stuff in the environment. In Duke 3D, you can destroy pretty much everything. Toilets, things on the walls. A lot of objects are destructible. In this game though, not so much. The environments, they're not the most static I've ever seen, but they leave much to be desired in that regard compared to the games that inspired it. The environments in these games, they're pretty interactive. In Mouse P.I, maybe because of the engine it was made on, which was Unity, or perhaps due to the environments all being 3D, or maybe from simple laziness from the devs. They are pretty static. One of the
Yes and no. You have things like Doom that don't have that. You have things like Quake that don't have that. You have many games, even modern games, that don't have that. BioShock does not have that. It's definitely inspired by BioShock with how it handles its hordes. The new Dooms don't have that, and so on and so forth. Pretty much few games have that because you need to put extra work in for handling that. A asset, a breakable asset, a replacement for that breakable asset, a SFX, so you gotta make sure that the physics are proper on that so that if you break it, you don't get sent straight to the floor. And it's just a lot of extra stuff. That's not even talking about if you add that and you don't properly program it, then you also have to then start reducing the bloat so that it doesn't just crash your game. I can only find that you would be able to make this point through sheer ignorance and laziness, rather than them being lazy, as he tries to imply.
The overworld is pretty boring. All you do in it is drive around from one location to the other. Most locations, they're locked. They only open up when it's time to do their objective. Once you're done with them, they lock up again.
This is actually a good thing to point out, because I thought that when you were done with the game, you would be able to go back and replay levels. Unfortunately, you can't, and this is a criticism that I would give, is that I think that they do need to have a ability to replay those levels, because I don't necessarily want to go and redo the whole game just to play one level, or have a save in that one level just so that I have to replay that. But then he makes a very bad criticism and doesn't use words properly. I don't know how you can do this. I don't know why people can't use words properly to describe things, but hey.
And aside from a few shops, there's really nowhere for you to go here, only the main objectives. So there are unnecessary mechanics like this that add to padding, and this game's length, it's pretty long for a game like this.
The padding in question. There's very little padding when it comes to here. It's like you just can explore the world to make it like look nice, and well, you may say that it's unnecessary. It's not that long to go from point A to point B. It's like 20 seconds max, maybe 30, if you're going from like all the way from the top to the bottom.
It took me 10 hours or so, almost 11 in game time, to beat the game. In real time, it took 14 hours or so. This is just an old school FPS, but I feel like this game is longer than Resident Evil Requiem, and it has a bunch of fake outs as well. Plenty of times I thought the game was over, but no, it just kept going. Even though I filled the entire corkboard back in the office with all the clues and I got the achievement for doing so, the game just kept going and going. A length of 6 to 8 hours would have been much better.
What is this point? I have 18 hours for Mouse P.I. I have 21 hours for Doom the Dark Ages, 23 for Doom Eternal, 11 for Doom. Hollow Knight took me a decent while. I don't think that's quite accurate, but I believe it was only 50 hours. Sekiro, my first one, took me about 20 hours or so. I really don't understand this point because this point can really be only made if the basis is I don't have the attention span for a longer game.
And speaking of your office, another thing this game does, which is just useless padding, is the whole thing of putting the evidence in the corkboard. You don't actually get to assemble anything. There's no puzzle here. It doesn't require thinking or deduction. You just click on the photos and your character will put them in the right place for you.
Once again, this takes like a maximum of 30 seconds if you have all the stuff. Like, I don't know what padding he's talking about, because if we just do a simple calculation and turn his hours into minutes, and then take that number, right? Clear that. Do 0.5, divide it by 840. That is the percentage, or you times it by 100 to get the percentage. It's 0.05%, or let's say 0.06% of the time that you're actually spending on that board. Every single time that you go back to the board, it's 0.06% of your time. I don't really know where this point is coming from, because if you're giving a criticism based off of 0.06% of the time of the game, every single time that you go over there, it makes no sense. On top of that, the padding is not padding. It really isn't. He's using that word again just to use it as a buzzword instead of actually giving a proper criticism, but doesn't build it up. Once again, this is saying I do not have the attention span for a game like this. He almost had a point that I might have agreed with, saying that there's not really a puzzle here. I thought it would be cool to put it up on the board and make your own board and say, I'm going to place this here and here, and I'm going to go connect things, and you might have to figure it out. But it didn't, and it didn't advertise itself as a clue game either, so it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world, but at least you would have some point there. It's very odd how he can have almost a criticism, but then go in the complete opposite direction. Or he'll have almost a point, but decide not to support it at all and just say it and then go into the complete opposite direction once again.
Photos, which by the way, when you take them, they don't look like the picture you framed in the camera. They turn into preset images after you take the shot, which is pretty damn lame. So don't expect any actual detective gameplay if you're looking for it, something like LA Noire. It just doesn't happen. You just have these fake gameplay segments in between missions taking place in this city block your office is located on. And the only—
Why would you expect a detective clue game? It did not advertise itself at all. It always advertised itself as a shooter that had noir elements, not that it was going to be a noir crime detective plus shooting game. Literally, the first thing that we see that is advertised from it, when it was all the way back 2 years ago, was nothing there. And when we got the early gameplay trailer, once again, it was a shooter. We have the gameplay teaser. Once again, ingredient of a day. It's a shooter, it's a beat 'em up. It never advertised anything of what he was talking about, so he's criticizing it based off of what? I could understand if his point was that these things could have been expanded upon, and it disappointed me a little, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because it really doesn't. Because it didn't try to do that, never advertised itself to do that, and is not part of the genre of a shooter. But that's not what his point is.
The only interesting thing you can do here is play a card minigame, a baseball card game, of which you have to win 20 matches to unlock a gun locked inside this refrigerator. And the card minigame, it is so bad, you basically just hoard enough money to buy all the good cards from the shop, the ones with a lot of attack power, let's call it, and that's how you win. You don't even need to think. You could try to load 1 or 2 bases and then get a home run by using your most overpowered cards in the batting phase, and that's pretty much it. This game is pretty brain dead.
This is the type of criticism that I want. Compared to the other criticisms that I agreed with that I either left out or shortened, This one is actually really well done. I thought that having 20 wins was absolutely a little dumb. I think having 10 wins would have been a lot better because then you would have gotten the gun pretty early on, like around mid game, because you probably want to buy other stuff. But then you have the ability to win it in a relatively quick amount of time. I don't really see the purpose of this compared to the other ones, as this is such a side mission that you never have to touch again, and pretty much the gun's only there for achievement. It never really made sense to me why it was 20. And what he said is 100% correct. You get good cards and then you basically go do that and you don't do anything else. Even if I were to give him this thing can not only be fixed, but is also just pretty much a random unlock that you're not really going to use all that much. It has very little bearing to the game, and you can completely go without it and be like, yep, I don't need it.
I would have much preferred if each mission was connected by cutscenes, without having to do any of this fake gameplay BS for the hacking immersion.
He keeps on using buzzwords as fake gameplay, padding, and so on and so forth. I don't think that he knows what that is. Other games have a HUD area. This is what we call a HUD area. Doom Eternal had that. I don't know what you want. Other games as well have a HUD area. It adds immersion and doesn't necessarily take away from anything because it allows you to just basically stop there, and then if you want, you can just go right back to the gameplay. Like Elden Ring or Dark Souls.
Of the other things that bother me, but aren't enough to make me dislike this game, are that 1, it seems to have a memory leak problem. When I streamed this game for almost 10 hours straight, it started to freeze up whenever I switched weapons. But nobody else is gonna do that. Play this game for 10 hours straight. Not many people will see this problem, unless it's worse on worse PCs, but I don't know. In the menu, there's a sound problem. Some of the buttons and sliders have this annoying sound that plays only in one side. It's really jarring to listen to. Listen. Noise, are you hearing this? Holy shit, that hurts. But again, this is a minor problem. It's probably gonna be patched soon. And lastly, trying to get out of water is pretty bad. Really inconsistent. I don't know how to do it consistently. It's a pain in the ass. So
what's odd is that these minor problems have a lot more validity to them than what he tries to say with all the other problems.
now it's time to go over the really bad shit that's in this game.
I'm gonna give you a little spoiler, guys. What he says is dumb.
You unfortunately can't avoid and have just the gameplay. First off, this game's story, it shouldn't even exist. Let us remember what John Carmack, the father of boomer shooters, said back in the day. Quote, "Story in a game is like a story in a corn movie. It's expected to be there, but it's not important." And
that is one developer out of many, and that is not a philosophy that is taken when it comes to game design anymore. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but bringing in one random person when that contradicts literally every single game that has existence in the modern era is kind of like saying, oh, you remember when this random guy that used to be at the top of his field that's no longer around had this philosophy, and that philosophy is not necessarily something that's objective? It's like, okay.
quote, "The story in this game should have been very optional and insignificant."
Keep in mind, it is not just a boomer shooter. It's inspired by them, but it's also inspired by other games like BioShock, which one of the appeals was its story. We don't even need to like really show anything. If you actually play the stories, there's this whole thing about the shrews and big mice and a party trying to control and so on and so forth. Very similar to a BioShock story about power dynamics. His criticism is based off of singular view mentality. If you make a boomer shooter, it needs to be exactly the way that he thinks and exactly the way he wants and exactly the way that the old boomer shooters are. But that's not the case. Games are iterative and can add and take things as they like. Now, whether or not they do it good is another thing, but he doesn't actually provide any good criticism or provide any evidence to the contrary that they didn't do it good.
What about the contents of said story? How good is it? Well, if it was good, I wouldn't have skipped 90% of it, would I? This is a Mickey Mouse cartoon game in a noir setting. You couldn't make a more dissonant combination than this. It isn't goofy enough for a Mickey Mouse cartoon, but it also isn't serious enough for a noir setting. The result
Except the fact that he's wrong. I don't think that this person knows of something called Naked Gun. It was a parody on police like TV shows. It was originally Police Squad, then they made a movie, then they made it. I don't think that this person ever heard of the word parody because it does it well. Just as simple as referencing something as Naked Gun and Police Squad. Yeah, no, what he says is just incorrect. You don't need to be stupidly goofy to have that cartoon aspect. You can just be goofy enough. That is what, once again, like Police Squad and Naked Gun does, where they do have like stakes and they do have things that are somewhat serious, but then also are goofy most of the time. And that's what Mouse P.I does.
It's entirely uninteresting. It's not funny like a cartoon, and it isn't engaging like a noir thriller. But it's been done before, right? Who Framed Roger Rabbit is both a cartoon and a noir film.
Yes and no. It's a little bit hard to compare them because Who Framed Roger Rabbit was PG.
Well, the problem is the cartoonish part of this game. The humor boils down to millennial Reddit humor. Basically,
meaning that it's still gonna have that very cartoony aspect, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, comparing them would be a false equivocation. It's more akin to like a kid crime thriller rather than a noir.
the death of a woman who worked as a stage assistant for a magician. You spend most of the game going after clues and leads that could lead you to what happened. But this is all interconnected with another thread, a heavily political one. The Big Mouse Party is going after the shrews. Yeah, that's right, the shrews. The Nazis are rounding up the shrews. So if you want to make a Wolfenstein game with a Mickey Mouse skin, well, that's fine by me, whatever, you can make your fictional historical setting. Problem is, this game, just like Wolfenstein the New Colossus, it's not just about history, it's about current day politics, current day memes, current day pop culture references. So
to correct that, no, it doesn't talk about anything of current day politics. I don't know what politics you got from them, but it didn't do anything of that. And the thing of like the memes are like one-off jokes. Most of the jokes aren't that. Most of the jokes are like Naked Gun, and that's why I make bigger comparisons to that, because it does a lot of wordplay. This is selective memory. He's picking and choosing to go and try to paint a completely different picture for no reason. I don't know why, but yeah. You can tell this because when he was talking about the person using the word Sigma, they were actually making fun of people using that word. It was not them trying to make a Sigma joke. And then he talks about a pop culture reference, but doesn't show anything of modern day politics. So yeah, so we have a lie, a person cutting out context, and then getting mad over a pop culture reference on a parody game.
So when the Nazis in this game have the same obvious fucking haircut as Orange Man, when they say the things that Orange Man says, well, in that case, you're not doing your cringe, hacking, stunning and brave armchair Antifa Redditor bullshit. That is the punch a Nazi thing with real Nazis. No, you're dunking on the people who fall into the new definition of Nazi, which is
no, it's actually a reference to the Nazi undercut. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like a comb over, but like that.
anything to the right of motherfucking Stalin. When you fill up your game with stale references of today's
This really shows his intelligence and his actual knowledge of things, because he tries to use the world's tiniest violin, which is a generic saying, as a reference.
Internet memes and pop culture media, then your game is not historical anymore.
And it's not trying to be historical, so I don't really know what his criticism is. This is a categorical error, and it feels so forced, and it feels so disingenuous, because he just really doesn't know. He tries to say that, oh, well, that's Donald Trump's hair, when no, that's just a Nazi undercut. He tries to say, well, it's trying to be historical. No, it takes historical inspiration. a lot of things that he points out doesn't really make any sense. If I took Elden Ring and I point out that there was crusades and therefore it was trying to do commentary on the crusades of the world, it's not historical anymore, therefore it doesn't really match. It really doesn't make any sense.
And holy fuck, there are so many references in this game. It's insane. I know boomer shooters used to do these references too back in the day. But you know, usually they came with a good joke to add flavor to it.
That's one doomed space marine. Cool.
If that's his level of a good joke, which is pointing out the obvious, it is clear that he's being extremely disingenuous because there was literally no joke and nothing with that. What is he talking about?
Didn't just fucking name drop shit like this.
Boy, these woods are real dark. Almost like dark wood.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, boo-hoo, our joke didn't land and I acted like a little child bitch. Oh, boo-hoo, no, woe is me. Oh, I can't make a single good argument. Oh. If you had better criticisms and you actually brought up these examples, that would be good. But that joke is literally the same exact thing as that's one doomed space marine. It's incredibly disingenuous. Like, it really is. Like, there was no setup for that joke, and there was no setup for the Doom Space Marine joke either. It literally is just that. It's just saying the name of the thing. Come on, man. You can't be that dumb.
Also, they have to add the cheese spin to everything. Every other line makes a pun on cheese.
Cheeseleggers and 30 cops. Whoa. Even these little hellspawn are knocking back cheese. Those asylum cheese fumes do seem to have some lasting effects.
Stop! You ain't funny.
I think this guy played the game with his eyes closed because it's very apparent in the world and makes it extremely apparent that cheese is a substitute for drugs. So when they're saying the cheese fumes, they're saying the drug fumes. When he's changing the cheeseleggers, they're bootleggers. These things are explained. Like, they're their names. Like, I understand that it can be annoying to get the spin on it, but the reason why this is because they have actually set it up completely differently. Like, cheese is very important into this world. Like, hey, it is something where it's a food, it's a drug, it's a alcohol. The two examples that he brings up is just a little bit stupid of saying, oh, you need to put a cheese spin on everything. And it's like, no, this is actually how the world works. If he brought up like them making constant random cheese jokes, okay, that could be a little bit more. And I could see that getting annoying, but he doesn't. He just picks the worst examples, which makes me think he played this game with his eyes closed behind his back, or he just had his clone play it. He brought up the worst possible examples to ever give. Because Moist Critical talked about it as well, and I agree with him that it can be like annoying afterwards. Like, it can become a one-trick pony, but the examples that he gives is like are so bad, are really bad. They don't show anything besides that he's trying to cut things out of context.
Especially when it comes out of the mouth of fucking Troy Baker, the guy who expresses less emotions than a fucking rock in his acting. Holy.
Alright, everybody, let's go. Do it with me. Oh, I don't like Troy Baker and I can't support my arguments properly by bringing in the worst examples. Oh, boo-hoo. Sorry for the audio.
Holy fuck, this game is so shrewish. This is the type of humor this game has. Brace for it.
So I slather the melted cheese on my belly like this. And then you...
Like that? This fuse just got blown.
So when he tries to say that this game has this type of humor, that's just incorrect. And what's odd is that he showed examples of showing that the game does not have that type of humor. So I don't really know what he's trying to do. Either it's doing this humor or it's doing pun humor. I will tell you, it's doing pun humor. It does a lot of Naked Gun humor, which seems to be inspired by. So he just straight up tried to lie about it.
So couple that with the fact that Goy Baker is in this game, and Deborah motherfucking Wilson, the bug lady herself, also voices a character that you hear from several times in this game. Yeah, everything makes sense. The Hasidic tunnel shrew humor, the machine gun of terribly delivered references.
Wow, what a mansion. It's hammer time. Times they are a-changing, right?
Oh, that's just lazy writing.
The dialogue, the lines, the Reddit self-aware post-ironic humor.
Be cheaper to respawn than to cover a stun mouse's medical bills.
Self-aware humor.
Up I go! Bombs! Blow! Bombs away!
Nice entrance! Whoa! Was he waiting for his cue?
What the hell happened here? Hell. Wait, was that a double jinx? Do those stack?
Oh, don't mind me. Just loitering professionally. Jack?
Alright, stop. How did you make that sound? You're literally
Did he just forget that he made the claim of like this is what the jokes are like and then show exactly like the jokes are not like that? What the hell? I wanted to leave that in, but like what? He just made a claim that the jokes are like this. And then he gives like a sexy time joke where it's like I'm gonna spread this on my belly, and then shows exactly that it's the opposite. What are you talking about? What's odd is that he referenced like Dooku Nukem, and Dooku Nukem does the same exact thing, and he literally showed evidence of them doing the same exact joke. Duke Nukem pretty much is a parody of shooters and a parody with like a bunch of references and one-liners and stuff exactly like this. So if he's getting mad at one but then saying, well, this one did it better, meanwhile showing that they do the exact same joke, it is extremely disingenuous, or that he has a level of cognitive dissonance that is unprecedented.
literally
The unfunny jokes, it's pure, concentrated, radioactive, Reddit cancer juice. It's as bad as Dispatch in that regard.
The only one that has acted like a Redditor is him, with extreme cognitive dissonance or disingenuousness, lying about things and not giving any proper criticisms, but then trying to boost up your criticisms by showing the exact same thing that contradicts you.
Did us a damn favor because that Shroud motherfucker had to go. Oh shit, can I not cuss?
It's fine. We can bleep it out.
Well, and shit, that's the only reason I'm talking.
That just happened. That's the type of shit this game offers in terms of humor and writing. And
You just showed the opposite. Which one is it? Is it a well just that just happened type of joke? Is it meta humor? Is it whatever? The answer is it does a bunch of mix of jokes and parodies and all that. Literally, this guy cannot keep a single claim straight, bro. But this is what happens when you act like a Redditor and then you call out people for acting like a Redditor when they aren't.
the delivery is shit too. Toy Breaker's voice doesn't fit this character. His voice acting is boring and lacks personality. His voice is one of the most generic sounding voices there are out there. Even if he has a good range, he's in Young Yeah's ballpark.
Except he doesn't. Pretty much he doesn't like Troy Baker and he just has a raging hate boner for him and he's using that as just justification to just say whatever the criticisms are. He actually does it pretty well and does it to the degree of what you would expect a voice actor to do. His acting doesn't fall flat. It actually, even if like the acting was flat, it works very well here for a gruff detective and it works for him. This is what happens when you complain for the sake of complaining and use I don't like something or I don't like somebody as the justification inside your mind for criticism. It ends up with you saying dumb things that you would never be able to go and show. And he doesn't show it because he wouldn't be able to show it because the voice acting is done well.
Dude, being just slightly better. In Young Yeah, yeah, the bar is pretty fucking low, friend. The fact that Jack Pepper, the main character, starts off quite serious, but throughout the game he starts to act more and more retarded, relying a lot more on references and shit Reddit humor. I can't take him seriously, nor can I find it funny. The female...
Except that's not what happens. He does start off somewhat serious in the beginning, but later on, like only a couple minutes in, he immediately starts making jokes. And also, if you have to use the R word, I'm not going to say it just for YouTube purposes, to go and try to justify your argument, you probably don't have an actual point. It really does show how lowbrow he is, and that word fits him a lot more than it does to anybody else or anything of the game.
Fatale Vivian has ballistics, but the fat one does? It's almost like the censorship is there for a very specific reason, putting...
He's complaining that the fat person has fat on them and the skinny person doesn't have big giant boobs. It could also just be the way that they wanted to draw the person, as if you look at Rubber Hose animation, that's how they draw that. This is the same level of ignorance when it comes to his criticisms as the same thing with like the undercut where he's saying, oh, that's Donald Trump's hair, even though that's not. Something to also point out, other skinny female characters also have that. That's just a style because it's a Rubber Hose animation with anthropomorphic characters, which generally have that. Wanda also doesn't have that.
Yeah, smells like the devil's bunghole. But at least it's equally warm here.
Bunch of slap-jawed f***s around here.
And making disgusting scat jokes.
Except it's not a scat joke. If you actually played the game, you would know that cheese is always used in terms of a substitute for, when not used as a joke, it's usually used as a reference to drugs or alcohol. So he's basically saying, I'm going to go put the drugs or alcohol on my chest and then you're going to go drink it out of my belly button. Which is, I don't know if you know, happens at parties. People do stuff like that. Oh my god. So don't try to go and manipulate context and try to shove in a thing that didn't happen because you're too like stupid to actually follow how they use the word cheese. I know you skipped most of the story, so you probably don't know anything of like in the game of like how they use the word cheese a lot of the time. But come on, man, if you're gonna go make a claim that drastic, you better go make sure that you're right. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a reference to Two Girls, One Cup, but it doesn't seem like that.
No, that's fine, dude. So yeah, there's a pretty fucking obvious double standard here. Putting a
There's not a double standard. He's just delusional.
skeleton with a spear up its ass in the game is fine, but attractive females? No, that's going too far.
Except that's not what happened. Once again, for some reason he's trying to push this weird thing with the anti-woke stuff. Like, just look at this thing and his response. It's like, yeah, no, you're just really dumb, buddy. Once again, it's just the style of how they draw the fat characters versus how they draw the other characters.
I don't care about anthropomorphic characters being attractive or not, personally. I'm pointing out that the devs applying this very selective censorship, well, it's anything but from the goodness of their hearts, be sure of that.
And all I'm pointing out is that his points cannot be made unless he's extremely ignorant or he's disingenuous. Either one means that his points are not that great. When we look at other characters, they don't have titties.
Nothing about this game's plot and setting is interesting. In fact, it's all over the place. In the second half of the game, it seems like every other line is a reference. This isn't clever. This is compensating for a total lack of creativity. This game is creatively bankrupt, and that doesn't mean that the game is bad. For the low IQ motherfuckers who may be watching, let me make this clear. The game being creatively bankrupt doesn't make it bad, because the things it copies from, they're pretty good. Duke Nukem's pretty good. Blood is pretty fucking good, but those are gameplay things. Unfortunately, replacing actual writing with references for every single piece of media created in the last century is not doing it right.
I don't think that this dude really knows words. It's not a bad thing, but I'm going to use it for a criticism. But then I'm going to contradict myself and say, no, that's only for gameplay parts, and now I'm talking about writing. So it is a bad thing, so... And what's odd is that he referenced Duke Nukem again, but once again, there seems to be selective memory. A lot of Duke Nukem quotes and references and a lot of stuff is having that type of self-aware humor or just referencing a bunch of stuff that they did not create. Like I said, selective memory.
Self-awareness creeps in even in the level design. Every breakable wall you see, aside from the obvious X-shaped marks, also tells you, this is totally a normal wall, dude. You know what they don't reference in this game? Working reflections. Something that the original boomer shooters always had, and they would always crack a joke when you interacted with the mirror.
Whoa! Oh, just me.
And there's
Well, it would be nice, it's not necessarily needed. It really has no interesting thing to the gameplay. What I find odd is that he wants, like, jokes, right? But then when a joke is very bland and basic, like, oh, just me, he somehow treats that as great. The double standard here that he proposes is very odd, while also trying to say that other people are doing double standards, which he showed nothing of. After all this time, what does he do? Well, he starts to actually talk about technical experiences and the bad, and oh my god, it's actually great. He talks about Steve Vandal, the boss fight, which was pretty bad. It's just you don't do anything. Then he talks about the last boss fight. I didn't like either, because once again, you don't do anything. It's not mechanically interesting, it's just wait and wait and wait. It's one of the things where like I think that they failed in those two regards, but then he immediately ruins it by trying to do this.
Hacking wholesome and based. It's no wonder the normie idiots like As Mongoloid and Smash JQ immediately engaged in their usual grift.
What grift are you talking about? Because the only grift I can see is coming from you. And using normie, when Asmongold is like literally the epitome of not a normie, you know, sitting at his desk, doing long live streams, not being a normal person, literally gaming and not cleaning his place because he wants to game so much to the point that he has just roaches, is exactly the opposite of what is a normie. This guy really does not know how to use words, and he uses these buzzwords to substitute arguments because he has none. He had a few, and those were talking about the technical experiences, boss fights, 2 of them, and that was pretty much it. Everything else is pretty much either a lie cut out of a context or he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Blazing this game to heaven. It's their new favorite game. Or wait, never mind, it's probably Pragmata now. So it was their new favorite game for one whole day. It changed their lives for one day, and then Pragmata is now changing their lives again. Man, I don't know, it's pretty chaotic, you know, having your life changed every day like this.
Or just start going into anti-woke stuff, which is stupid. I think it's chaotic that you can't really make a good argument and that you have to lie, cut out context, or have selective memory. And the criticism that he's giving is when people do like the clickbait titles and thumbnails, it's really whatever. So after all these delusional arguments, what does he say?
6.5.
So all that lying, all that things of not actually properly giving context, contradicting himself multiple times, he gives it a 6.5. Good to know he's as valuable as a IGN reviewer. And then once again, he gives a random stupid anti-woke thing of this.
Amazing. So should you buy this game? No. Why? Because Deborah Wilson is in it, and they hid that fact intentionally until we actually could see the game's credits.
Except they didn't. I don't know what is with this thing, with this mind reading, like whatever he wants to do here, but they didn't. You have no evidence that they did. You feel like they did, but they didn't. What happened is that she voiced a side character, and your random politics, it makes you go ooh, 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 and angergasm at it. No, really, like test this out. When has there ever been a celebrity cameo in a game in which they voice a random character and you find out way before any release? And I mean way before any release. Never. Like you maybe get a week when like they start updating things about credits and all that, but never that. It's a really stupid thing, once again showing his ignorance about this. Everything is pretty much built off of ignorance, or maybe, I don't want to assume, but disingenuousness. So that's the end of the video for him. He leaves off, but this video left a very distasteful taste in my mouth. It's something that doesn't really make sense as he tries to bring in something of, well, they're bringing a double standard with women. And the reason that I bring that up and the reason why I say anti-woke is because he does this. Most of what he says it does not subscribe to reality, and therefore it's a 1 out of 10. Anyway, my name is TRG. I'm a guy that plays games while being lame. See you later, guys. Hope you liked this video. If you do, please like, subscribe. Bye-bye.